Hello, Idle Hero fans. Thank you for tuning in today for a video that I'm going to be doing discussing a certain mechanic that's kind of come up around crowd control. And it's only surfaced the past like week or two, at least in common knowledge. I don't know if maybe a few of you guys have actually known about this already and just it hasn't been talked about, but I've kind of scoured around a little bit on Reddit and through like talking to people on the line groups, and it seems like this is a pretty new mechanic, or at least it's new to knowledge. And what it revolves around is that when you crowd control somebody, they're actually getting stronger under certain circumstances. And what that means is, I guess we'll start from the beginning. And certain heroes have abilities that apply crowd control, like Demon Hunter, for example, can silence you, or let's see, who else are we talking about here? Dark Vanilla, for example, has a Petrify ability, and that petrifies for 2 rounds. And crowd control basically breaks down into two major types anyway. There's Silence, which is a soft crowd control, where you can't use your abilities, but your unit can still attack. And then there's Hard crowd control, which consists of Petrify, Freeze, and Stun in general. And those three, you can't do anything while you're under the influence of them. So if you're stunned, you can't attack or use your abilities. Now, what this new mechanic indicates is that if you get stunned or silenced or any crowd control, and your energy meter is at 100%, so like the bar that would use to indicate if you're about to use an ability, if that bar has hit 100% while you cannot use an ability, and you still gain energy through one means of the other, which would be like, if, for example, if you're silenced and your bar is at 100% and then your unit attacks, normally your unit would gain 50% of their bar, but because it's at 100%, it visually is not indicated. However, your character is still actually getting stronger based on that bar. So, for example, if your Demon Hunter silences your opponent, and when they first get silenced, they're at 100% of their meter. So they're just about to use their ability, but Demon Hunter silences them first. Then, if they attack twice while silenced, they will have gained 100% of their meter again, essentially. Just, it's not indicated because the meter is full. That's how much they would have, in theory, have gotten. That actually increases the next ability that they use by that percent. So, if you have the situation that I just described, as soon as, say, for example, if it was an Aiden, if Aiden had been silenced right before he used his ability, and then gained 2 attacks, which would have put him at essentially 200% energy, the next attack he's going to do is going to be 100% stronger than it would have been otherwise, because the energy kind of built up. And this is a very new mechanic, or at least very new to people, because I've never heard anybody talk about this until now. This is the first time I've really heard about this, and from what I can tell, that may have changed at the point of this video being made, but this is only on the official server. Apparently, because it was so unknown and no one was aware of it, it did not get implemented into the private server, and I think Matt is trying to get it into the private server, but it's not there yet, if I'm not mistaken. I may be mistaken. If someone knows a little bit about that, they can mention it in the comments or something, and I'll pin it or love it or whatever the little indicator is required, so that more people can know about it. But it's pretty much just for the official server right now. And this actually shakes things up a little bit, if at least in perspective. Technically, on the official server, the heroes have always had their same strength because this has always been happening. But now perceived strength might be a little bit different, especially for Demon Hunter. Now, don't get me wrong, Demon Hunter is still amazingly powerful, because ultimately, even if your opponents are getting stronger over time from your silences, you're still going to want to stop them from using their abilities for as long as possible, because even if they charge up their power, if you kill them before they use that attack, you still have a net gain on your side of the field, and that leaves you in an advantageous situation. However, it does kind of put a little bit of a damper on the question that I've always been kind of intrigued by, or not always, I guess more so the past month, with the Drip's influence, of trying to figure out what the best forest unit is. And I've pretty much been hung in the balance between Demon Hunter and Rosa, And I think things like this really swing it a little bit towards Rosa, because there are now going to be, especially once it gets implemented into the private server, scenarios where Demon Hunter might silence something like a Flame Strike for 2 turns. Flame Strike does not die and gains a huge bonus from that built up energy, and then her ability just fucking explodes because she's already extremely explosive. And once you add that to the mechanic, it's just going to be ridiculous. Like, she's going to do even more damage. It's going to be even more overwhelming. And the big problem I see is I think this really only applies to Demon Hunter, at least in an extreme case. Or it technically applies to everyone who silences. Because silence is the big perpetrator of this, where if you're stunned, petrified, or frozen, the only way you can really gain energy is if you're being hit. Because I think if you're hit, you gain 25% energy as well, or 10%. It's you gain a small fraction of energy when you get hit, whereas if you attack, you gain 50%. So if you're frozen, petrified, or stunned, you're not attacking, which means your bar isn't really being built up anyway, at least in a very minute amount. Whereas if you're silenced, you're going to be doing a lot of you're going to do at least 2 attacks, because most silences last for 2 turns. So if you attack 2 turns, that's a full 100% bonus you're going to gain. Plus, if you get hit, then there's a little bit extra. So that's going to be a real big thing moving forward once that does get implemented into the actual private server. Now, and it might be one of the reasons why it seems like on the official server, Flame Strike is really strong, whereas on the private server, she's not quite as strong. Now, of course, she's still really powerful, but this is something I've noticed, not specifically because of the crowd control, but I've noticed that Flame Strike doesn't quite seem to have the impact she does on the official server. Now, that's slowly becoming less true just because of the levels. Now that people are all starting to max out their teams, and because you're starting to get rainbow auras, I think that the more equal things become, the stronger Flame Strike gets. And if you're in a team where your team is a little bit weaker than your opponent's, then Flame Strike might not feel as powerful when you're looking at 9 stars. But when you add in another element now, which is this silence factor, and a lot of people do happen to run Demon Hunter, including myself, it's going to be a whole other kind of equation you're going to have to throw in when you're talking about how strong is Flame Strike. And another Aiden is the same way, and Aiden is kind of a funny one because he has a silence as well. So not only is he going to gain a lot of power from this because of the way that mages generally work, where they're kind of trying to save up for one big shot with like Aiden and Flame Strike. They just kind of like to just throw out that one ability that levels the opponent's whole team. He also has a silence, and silencing warriors seemed a little bit useless for a long time because not many people use warriors. But if you have an AS model that happens to just live through that silence and hits people with that huge Divine Gathering, that is gonna suck. That is gonna suck so bad. AS model is already strong, so giving him a little bit more leverage like that, it's just incredible. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that the silence is bad, but what I'm saying is in contrast to what we have now, where the silence is just strictly a crowd control, once this does get implemented into the private server, that's going to make units like AS model stronger when fighting against Aiden, and that's a huge thing. And that's actually something I'm going to be leading into with my next video that you guys are going to see, is that warriors are getting pretty strong. And we're going to see a little bit of a change in the meta, I think, in the next coming week or two. Maybe a little bit longer. It's always hard to tell with the way this game works. But warriors are coming back. The days of Dominator are never coming back, but the days of Brea and AS model are definitely starting to come back. So, I want to know what you guys think. Or the biggest thing I'd like to know is that, have I just been in the dark about this ability? Has this been a common thing that people have known about, and that's just slid under the radar for me personally? Or is this really something that is new to the public? Because if it is, I'm glad that I was able to bring it out to everybody, because it's been super not talked about. There was only like 2 or 3 days, I think it was like a few weeks ago, that people were talking about it, and then no one talked about it again. And this is something that we really have to actually consider when making things like tier lists or making your own team. If you're not like into making content, if you just want to make your own team and you're looking at which heroes are going to be the strongest, and you have to make choices like Rosa or Demon Hunter, having this kind of information can definitely make that a little bit easier. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if this has been common knowledge or if this has been cited somewhere. Maybe it's been on Reddit. and I just missed it because I don't frequent Reddit very often, which would suck if I just missed this knowledge because I don't use Reddit. That might be a little bit of a wake-up call to kind of get me there, because I'm currently under the impression that I generally come upon knowledge through line and through the in-game as quickly as I would through Reddit anyway, usually. But yeah, I'm just curious about it. So thanks guys for watching, and make sure to like and comment if you enjoyed the material, and of course subscribe if you want to see more. But yeah, have a great day.